Can I take your order, please?
1 gram of jelly donut, please.
There y'all go. Have a wonderful day and don't forget to hit that like button.
Hi. I had a pre-order of 14 grams of today's news. Can I add 1 gram pre-roll of sugar plum? Thank you.
Of course! You are all set, my friend. Have a good day and make sure you subscribe.
This week in entertainment news, the hip-hop world is rocked again as multiple high-profile figures face serious allegations, legal drama, and health emergencies. In a shocking development, singer R. Kelly reportedly OD'd in prison, according to his attorney. The incident, which took place in North Carolina facility, has sparked concerns of a possible unaliving attempt. His lawyer is now calling for an investigation into what he describes as a unaliving plot. Suggested foul play may have been involved. Meanwhile, Sean Diddy Combs continues to face intense legal scrutiny, but despite speculation, sources confirm he will not be testifying in any current federal investigations. His former assistant, Fonzworth Bentley, has been getting a lot of attention and wonder, and we've talked about him on our channel before. We have a live and we have a video about it. What happened? Now, he used to be one of Diddy's main people in his inner circle. Adding to the wave of controversy, rapper Fat Joe has been hit with disturbing new allegations as well. A woman has accused him of repeated, unwanted sexual acts over several years. Fat Joe denies the claims and vows to clear his name. Allegations are already stirring major backlash online and within the music community. From OD scares to explosive allegations, the pressure is mounting on some of the biggest names in hip-hop. We'll keep you up to date on these stories as they continue to unfold. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more breaking updates. R. Kelly rushed to the hospital after ODing in prison, as his lawyer alleges it was part of an unaliving plot. R. Kelly allegedly OD'd in prison and was rushed to the hospital last week. In court documents obtained by The Post, the rapper's attorney, it should really say R&B singer, B. Brindley, claimed that the Bureau of Prison staff at his federal center in Butner, North Carolina, intentionally gave him too much medication, which caused him to OD and be transferred to a nearby hospital. The lawyer alleged that Kelly, who is serving a 31-year sentence for Little's sexual harming crimes, was forced to take medication in solitary confinement on the night of June 12th. The next morning, Kelly alleged that he felt faint and dizzy and started to see black spots in his vision. The rapper also allegedly tried to get up but fell to the ground before he crawled to the door of the cell and lost consciousness. Kelly was taken by ambulance to Duke University Hospital, his attorney said. While Kelly was in the ambulance, he allegedly heard a prison officer say, "This is going to open a whole can of worms." At the hospital, Kelly allegedly learned that he had been administered an OD quantity of his medications that threatened his life, according to his lawyer. The attorney added that doctors discovered blood clots in both Kelly's legs and lungs, but he was allegedly removed from the hospital before he could get treatment. When advised he required surgery and needed to be kept for 2 weeks, officers assigned to Mr. Kelly in the hospital contacted the officials at Butner, Bentley stated in the docs. Within an hour, officers with pew-pews came into the hospital room and removed Mr. Kelly. He was taken from the hospital against his will and against the directives of the doctors. Bentley alleged that Kelly was denied the surgery he needs to clear blood clots in his lungs that threaten his life and was returned to solitary confinement at prison instead. It is undeniable Mr. Kelly's life is in jeopardy right now because the Bureau of Prisons to clear blood clots from his lungs, Brindley went on to say. He could pass away from this condition, and they are letting it happen. In a statement to U.S. Weekly, Brindley said, if this is not Bureau of Prisons engaging in conduct that will unalive Mr. Kelly, I would ask government counsel to explain this. In the court docs, Brindley added, Mr. Kelly's life is in danger, and that danger is coming from Bureau of Prisons officials and their actions. Mr. Kelly needs his court intervention. His life actually depends on it. Brindley stated that Kelly is requesting a temporary furlong to home detention. The Post has reached out to Brindley for comment. In 2021, Kelly-born Robert Sylvester Kelly was convicted of racketeering and sex beep beep charges by federal jury. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. The following year, the I Believe I Could Fly singer was also convicted on 6 of the 13 counts he faced, including Little's you-know-what charges, during a separate Chicago trial. A judge later sentenced him to 20 years with 19 to run concurrently with his previous 30-year sentence. Kelly's legal team requested a release from federal custody, of course they did, and asked for the house arrest last week, alleging that the disgraced star was a victim of an alleged unaliving plot. In a filing obtained by the Post, inmate Mikhail Glenn Stein claimed that 3 high-ranking inmates approached him about unaliving Kelly before ultimately being placed in the same prison unit as him. Stein said he ultimately decided not to go along with the plan and instead told Kelly about the supposed unaliving plot. We are fighting to keep Mr. Kelly alive and expose the corruption, Brindley told the Post on June 11th. We call upon President Trump to help us in this endeavor, as he is the only person who has shown, the courage and willingness to stand up to these people and actually stop the corruption in its tracks. Wow. What do you guys think about that? It is kind of crazy, the timing, because we just got news not that long ago about Tory Lanez being attacked behind bars. And that's opened the can of worms about Megan Thee Stallion in that whole scenario that landed him in jail. Because there is footage of her saying that she wasn't harmed or hit by the pew-pew, that her foot was bleeding from stepping on glass. And there is also footage of her backing up with her hands up, stepping supposedly over glass. So make sure you tell me in the comments down below what you think about this whole thing. Do you think it was okay for them to rip him out of the hospital? Or do you think that's against his human rights, regardless of what he's done? Let me know. Sean Diddy Combs is not testifying at his sex beep beep trial, and it is said to likely wrap up right before July 4th, according to the judge. Need to know. Sean Diddy Combs is not testifying at his trial, people have confirmed. Combs is facing multiple charges, including sex beep beep transportation to engage in doing it for money and racketeering. The trial is in its 6th week, and Combs' defense team has asked for a mistrial 3 times. On July 17th, defense attorney Mark Anafilio told Judge Aran Subramanian their presentation could last less than 2 days, but not more than 5. With Sean Combs' bombshell federal trial now in its 6th week, much of that was once sealed from the public view is now part of the official record. Prosecutors have outlined what they describe as a years-long criminal enterprise that could have put the music mogul behind bars for life, alleging Combs used his power and influence to traffic women, to beep beep women, silence accusers, and shield himself from accountability. While the government's case has included graphic testimony and a detailed timeline of alleged events, the defense has yet to present its full argument. One key question: Whether Combs himself would testify has now been answered. Multiple sources confirm 2 people stand in his own defense, despite the high-profile nature of the proceedings and the serious charges he faces. The decision comes as both legal teams prepare for what will be the final phase of the trial that has gripped the music industry and the public alike. For weeks, Combs 50 inside the Manhattan federal courtroom, occasionally shaking his head, fidgeting in his seat, or U.S. District Judge Iran threatened to kick Combs out of the court for allegedly flashing facial expressions at jurors. Between breaks in the tenses and heart signs with his mother Janice, seated just feet away in the gallery. Combs is facing serious federal charges, including SEX, beep beep, racketeering, and the transportation to questioned whether prosecutors are providing the charges in court. On Monday, June 12th, a juror was dismissed over conflicting answers about where he resides. Judge Sabamarian would be dismissed and replaced with an alternate, Westchester County. Despite 4 days of gripping testimony from ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, who painted a harrowing picture of 11 years of alleged harming and substance-fueled FO parties during 4 days on the stand beginning on Tuesday, May 13th. Former prosecutor Jennifer Bidell told People that the case may be closing momentum. If the jury had to decide today, I don't think they would convict, Bidell, now a criminal defense attorney, said on May 28th. This is also because they don't have the benefit of all the rest of the evidence at this point. But to obtain a conviction, the prosecution has to identify the co-conspirators and probably call them as witnesses, at least some of them. And I would have put them early to get some understanding of the scope of what this was, how it started, and why. You mean like, why haven't we had KK on the stand as a witness yet, as she is mentioned in everything? Well, there's a possibility she took some sort of deal. Like, look at Brendan Paul. He has immunity. If she is willing to provide answers and help the government close up this case on Diddy, they're going to let her be. And that's crazy to me, because the stuff that she has participated with and in and set up knowingly, no, she should be behind bars. To me, she's just as bad as Ghislaine MaxiPad. Just saying. You knew what you were doing to people. 2 women have testified under pseudonyms Mia and Jane, alleging Combs harmed them, and Bidell believes the prosecution still has time to turn the tide. A prosecutor won't indict a case unless they think they have proof beyond a reasonable doubt of all the necessary elements. Bidell said, adding, "So I certainly go into this with the assumption that they believe that they have the necessary proof." I'm not even making jokes. All those pictures of the Astroglide and Johnson & Johnson baby oil, that says enough for me. Anybody to have that crazy, insane amount, boxes and rooms filled with it in all sizes and travel sizes, something's wrong here. Combs, meanwhile, has pled not guilty to the charges, and his lawyers have strongly denied the central allegations of this case, that he coerced at least 2 women into substance-fueled SEX marathons with male prostitutes, male money SEX workers, and used bodyguards and other employees as part of a criminal enterprise to orchestrate and conceal the harming. A woman identified in prosecutors' court filings as victim 3, the pseudonym used to protect fans. Questions about her availability arose last month when prosecutors told the court they had been unable to reach her attorney. Still, victim 3, who has been referred to in testimony by only the name Gina, has hovered over the case as Ventura, and others have described Combs' overlapping romantic and asexual relationships. A woman identified by prosecutors as Victim 5, who was supposed to be testifying using her real name, is not expected to take the stand. I wonder why all the changes. There is an interview out there from years ago, before Cassie came out, of Gina, his ex-girlfriend, talking about harming. But nobody wanted to listen. Although Combs' defense, Mark Anafilio, previously suggested Diddy might testify, a claim he made in the Hulu documentary, The Downfall, decided to keep him off. I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. He is very eager to tell his story, Anafilio said at the time. Of course he is. So full of himself, he wants to make sure he could fluff up himself. Even Suge Knight, whose name was mentioned dozens of times during trial, exclusively weighed in from prison on July 3rd. On June 13th, telling people the only way Combs can even begin to take some of that pain away is if they have Puff Daddy on the stand, Knight says. And the truth will come out. And say, this is what I did. Legal experts say that the choice may be strategic. Testifying could open Combs' statements he makes under oath could be used against him in the more than 60 civil cases still pending. It's risky, the legal analyst and they expect Combs' defense will continue to focus on discrediting his accusers, arguing they are driven by fame, money, and revenge, and casting doubt and challenging their credibility during closing arguments. Still, Combs' fate rests in the hands of 12 jurors, 8 men and 4 women, tasked with delivering a verdict. Combs has pled not guilty to all these charges. If you or someone you know has been sexually harmed, please contact the National Sexual Harming Hotline, 1-800-RAINN.org. Fat Joe denies sex acts with Littles after former hype man's $20 million lawsuit. Rapper Fat Joe has denied allegations that he engaged in such acts with Littles after the claims were made in a lawsuit filed by his former hype man, Terrence T.A. Dixon. Born Joseph Antonio Cartandega, Fat Joe has been accused of coerced labor exploitation, financial fraud, sexual manipulation, violent intimidation, physiological coercion. Dixon is seeking up to $20 million in damages. Fat Joe is Sean Combs minus 2 seats. Dixon's attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, told The Independent he learned nothing from his 2013 federal conviction. Blackburn continued, referring to Fat Joe's 4 months behind bars for failing to file income tax returns. In a statement to The Independent late Thursday, Fat Joe's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, called the claims complete fabrications. The lawsuit filed by Tyrone Blackburn and Terrence Dixon is a blatant act of retaliation. He added the allegations against Mr. Cartagena are complete fabrications, lies intended to damage his reputation and force a settlement through public pressure. He will not be intimidated. We have taken legal action to expose the fraudulent campaign and hold everyone involved accountable. Filed in the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, and viewed by The Independent, Dixon's 157-page document contained a content warning due to the graphic nature of the claims in bold red font. Dixon served as Fat Joe's hype man for 16 years, energizing the crowd before and during performances. 16 years. In the lawsuit, Dixon alleged Fat Joe forced him into humiliating situations, including sex acts performed under duress and surveillance, accompanied by threats of abandonment in foreign countries if he refused to comply. Dixon further alleged he was coerced into more than 4,000 sexual acts to maintain his standing within the enterprise.
Can I take your order, please?
Yikes. Dixon's lawsuit also alleged he faced a wide spectrum of sexual coercion, physiological control, forced and surveillance-based humiliation, including being compelled to perform these acts under observation, being filmed or directed by Fat Joe. This sounds just like Diddy. In the presence of others, tactics designed to control plaintiff's body, erode his autonomy, and ensure silence. These sexual-based harmings were not private, incidental, or isolated. They were integral to Enterprise's culture of dominance and humiliation, enforced by defendants' associates such as Pistol Pete, JB, and others, and tours locations including Miami, North Carolina, Germany, Spain, and Wisconsin. The complaint continued. Dixon also alleged that he personally witnessed Fat Joe engage in sexual relations with littles who were these ages, listing 3 Jane Does who, in exchange for cash, clothing, and payment of her cell phone bill, would perform using the mouth and other acts on the rapper. The littles, 3 of them, including this one from New York, met the defendant when she was this age, according to the documents. Fat Joe began having sexual relations with minor Doe 2 when she was this age. After a concert overseas, defendant flew minor Doe 2 to New York City and Miami, Florida on multiple occasions. Due to minor Doe 2's body being adolescent and not fully formed, defendant paid for her to get a Brazilian butt lift. Oh my God. Minor Doe 2 eventually left defendant and is now married to a professional athlete, the complaint stated. The documents further state that Fat Joe was in love with the 3rd little and claims the rapper thought about leaving his wife. The defendant paid all minor Doe 3's bills and even took her overseas to his tour stops. He brought her to Florida and would put her up in a condo he rented, the lawsuit stated. In a recorded conversation, minor Doe 3 and her cousin described in detail to plaintiff how inappropriate it was for a defendant who was in his late 30s at the time to be fawning over littles. Dixon claimed that the incidents occurred on Market America's corporate yacht, as well as its mansion properties, where Fat Joe orchestrated repeated group acts involving plaintiff, female dancers, and littles. He also alleged that the rapper used his star status to force Dixon and others into degrading sexual performances, often while he watched or directed. These incidents occurred under conditions that included the presence of corporate security staff, surveillance cameras, and defendant's management entourage, yet no intervention occurred, supporting the inference that these acts were facilitated by and covered up by the broader enterprise and its affiliates. The complaint continued. Dixon did not willingly consent to participate in these acts. Instead, plaintiffs submitted solely out of fear of immediate retaliation, which defendant repeatedly demonstrated would include financial punishment, professional sabotage, abandonment in foreign countries, or physical harm. In addition to Fat Joe, the lawsuit also named Pistol Pete Torres, and Richard Rich Player Joseph, who were labeled as key associates of the rapper's criminal enterprise. Rapper Jay-Z's Rock Nation is also named, surprise, surprise, with the lawsuit claiming the company aided concealing, transferring, and manipulating Dixon's authorship rights and royalty interests, and attempted to interfere with the claims against Fat Joe, Torres, and Giuseppe. Rock Nation represents Fat Joe. Dixon's lawsuit comes months after Fat Joe sued his former hype man for social media slander. Dixon had claimed that Fat Joe flew a little across state lines to engage in acts. Dixon's lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, was also named in the suit. Oh my God. Fat Joe's lawyer told The Independent the claims from Dixon and Blackburn are a desperate attempt to deflect attention from the civil suit we filed first, which exposed their coordinated scheme to extort Fat Joe through lies, threats, and manufactured allegations. The lawyer added, "We didn't just sue a disgruntled former employee trying to revive a false claim from 15 years ago. We sued the lawyer behind it all." Tyrone Blackburn has a well-documented pattern of harming the courts to harass defendants and generate media attention. 2 separate federal judges have condemned his conduct, one for filing headline-chasing lawsuits full of salacious and baseless claims, and another for making repeated legal misstatements and professional attacks in court filings. The lawyer said Blackburn is the subject of a pending referral to the Southern District's Disciplinary Committee. Law enforcement is aware of the demand at the heart of this scheme, he said. Fight. This is the right way to fight Joe, through the system. You can't fight him no other way, Dixon told Variety. Joe thinks he's God. Joe thinks he's untouchable. Remember Fonzworth Bentley? Here's what happened after he moved on from holding umbrellas for Sean Diddy Combs. Before there were influencers, Fonzworth Bentley became famous for being adjacent to the influential at the time, namely Sean Diddy Combs. Whether he was the umbrella holder in chief or making appearances on Combs' various television projects, as Combs' personal assistant, Bentley was in the orbit of new millennium cool of the early aughts. For the professional assistants who followed Bentley, we now know more about what working for Combs actually entailed for them. In recent weeks, the jury in Combs' federal criminal trial has heard from 5 former employees of Combs who served as his assistants for all or some of their time working with him. Through their testimony, which in some cases was delivered under immunity agreements, prosecutors aimed to prove Combs used his business and staff in service of a criminal enterprise in which the government claims Combs engaged in sex, beep beep, forced labor, snatching littles, lighting fires, bribery, and obstruction of justice between 2008 and 2024. And just as a reminder, we have to change words, use code terms to stay in the guidelines of the community here on YouTube. It's lame, but we got to do what we got to do to get the message out there. Combs has pled not guilty to charges of racketeering, conspiracy, the sex beep beep, and transportation to engage in these acts with money involved. Derek Watkins, Bentley's given name, stopped working for Combs in 2004, 4 years prior to any allegations in the federal case. He has not been named in any civil litigation or criminal case against Combs, but his role in Combs' life has not gone unmentioned by trial observers. who have Combs's old media appearances in search of clues that might answer the questions playing out in court. What exactly did Diddy do? It's more like, what didn't he do? My God. Protecting was part of the job. During a 2004 late night TV conversation with Conan O'Brien, Combs raved about Watkins, a dapper gentleman who was famously once photographed holding an umbrella for Combs to shield him from St. Tropez's sun. At the time of the interview, Watkins was no longer employed by the music mogul. He's an entrepreneur, Combs said of Watkins. He's moved on to bigger, better things. But it was what Combs had said later in the conversation that has people wishing Watkins would say more about his time working for Combs. O'Brien asked the music mogul about his practice of sending someone from his staff to hotels ahead of his stays to prepare his room. Ugh. It's called preparing the sexy, Combs explained. Nope. I definitely take pride in being the originator of the preparation of being sexy. Ew. Combs said that entailed having candles, flowers, and specific scents in his rooms. Well, we really know what this really means now. Some disturbing things. Prosecutors have painted a different picture about alleged incidents years later. Details around so-called FOs and hotel nights, king nights, between 2008 and 2024 have been central to the prosecution's case against Combs in testimony from his former assistants. The alleged victims and male entertainers paid to participate in some of the alleged substance-fueled sexual encounters. The first time Combs' former executive assistant, George Kaplan, was tasked with setting up a hotel room for Combs, he was given a bag and told to unpack it. He testified last month. The bag had clothes, a speaker, candles, liquor, baby oil, Astroglide, said Kaplan, who testified under immunity order. After that first time, he said he would often buy the same supplies with his corporate credit card. Kaplan testified that after Combs would leave a hotel room, he'd go in, pack up Combs' belongings, and tidy up. On one occasion, he cleaned up a brown crystallized powder off a countertop, though he said he didn't know what it was. Asked why he didn't let the hotel staff clean it up, Kaplan said he came to understand part of his role. Protecting him and protecting his public image was very important, and that was something I was very keen on doing, he said. So even if it's illegal, you're going to cover it up for your boss. That makes you, involved in that whole mess. Watkins has not spoken publicly about his allegations against Combs. CNN reached out to Watkins and his former representatives for comment. Watkins, like others close to Combs, have seemingly moved on. Watkins married, had kids. His infrequent social media presence is a collection of tributes to other entertainment artists, sponsored posts from brands like Lego, and the occasional inspirational message. How your life feels is much more important than how it looks, an Instagram post from Watkins shared last year reads. Of course, Watkins' time in Combs' circle was at least then very important to him. He is now a music producer doing his own thing. I believe he did music for a few theme songs for shows. It was Watkins' distinct style, tailored three-piece suits and colorful ties that sparked his introduction to Combs. During a Shade 45 morning show conversation in 2009, Watkins recalled bumping into Combs at events around 2001 in New York City, where Watkins had moved from Atlanta and was then working at Ralph Lauren's flagship store. Okay, so there's multiple stories on this, because there was a story released saying they met when he was working at a restaurant as a server, and he told him, please help me get out of this job or something. We went over it. So it's interesting we're getting a different story.
Hi, Can I get 1 gram of the cookies and
The
cream?
two would talk fashion, which makes sense, and those interactions led them to exchanging numbers. Watkins decided to appeal to the entrepreneur's shared sense of ambition, he said. Combs had clawed his way himself by leaving Harvard University to intern for Uptown Records with Lou Taylor. I just picked up the pager and wrote, "You remember that guy that traveled from Harvard University to intern with Uptown Records at Head? Andre Harrell. I'm that guy." In 2001, Watkins told the radio show's host, Angela Yee. Combs told him to come to work and sent him an address, according to Watkins. "I literally started training that day as his assistant," he added. "The rest is history." There may not be anyone more visibly linked to Combs at the height of his success and the tabloid culture of the early 2000s than Watkins. Fonzworth Bentley was a nickname from Combs and one of his associates that became a public persona, as Watkins was photographed with Combs at events and appeared on the MTV reality show Making the Band 2. He was also deridingly compared in some press to a manservant, a term Watkins disliked. I don't blame him. Critics of their professional dynamic believed seeing Watkins subservient to the mogul was a painful reminder of a time when those types of positions were all that were available to African Americans. In a 2004 interview with the New York Times, Watkins brushed off the criticism as handily as he would lint on a lapel. "A pioneer always looks crazy until he finds dry land," he told the publication. "He was never a manservant. He had a very respectable job, and when he held up an umbrella for me, that was his idea because it's entertainment," Combs said in a 2017 interview. "And he knows I don't like to get hot." Watkins' post-assistant projects included hosting MTV's From G's to Gents, oh yeah, a makeover series for aspiring gentlemen. He appeared in rap duo Outkast's The Way You Move and Rose's music videos, and had a small role in a 2006 film, Idlewind. Watkins also had parts in the movies Honey and Fat Albert. He launched a line of high-end umbrellas, and authored the etiquette book, Advance Your Swagger, How to Use Manners, Confidence, and Style to Get Ahead. His former boss helped influence him getting into the music industry. Watkins rapped on the band's 2002 album, Too Hot for TV, and in a skit on Outkast's famed album, Speakerbox, The Love Below. He released his debut album, Colors, in 2011, but it was Kanye West who gave him the most visibility in the music industry. He almost looks like Denzel Washington here. West featured Watkins on his album, The College Dropout, and gave him songwriting album, Yeezus. He has continued contributing to creative projects in the entertainment industry, more recently on shows like Blackish. Told ya. In a 2002 interview with Forbes, Watkins described how he works with fellow artists. "It's really about listening and being aware and being present, but also being able to understand that artist and understand their fears and insecurities," Watkins said. "It's also about being able to see something in them that they may not see themselves that I can help unearth." He also reflected on his time working for Combs 2 decades prior. "How Sean Combs runs his life is like a concierge," Watkins said. "He really does live like The Godfather Part 2. Maybe people should have listened when people were saying things word for word. Do you guys remember him in his flashy outfits? Tell me in the comments down